So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our session this afternoon. Hopefully we're going to be able to answer some questions for you. Nicole, I only see your screen on. Do you see anyone else's on? It could just be an internet thing on my end. Oh, your microphone's off, Nicole.
No, I don't see anyone else's, Tanya.
Okay, that's all right. I just thought I would check and see if there was anyone else there with questions. All right, so feel free to turn your camera on if you would like. It helps us to know if we get some feedback from everyone as we're going. My name is Tanya Steele. I was actually a virtual teacher from September to December, and then I was able to move into the program role. And my other co-host here is Nicole Cooper, and she's been, do you want to talk about your role a little bit?
Sure. I am Nicole Hooper, like Tanya said, and I work for the Library Learning Commons support in our board, and I also teach kindergarten on my other half time. So Tanya is running the show here, and I'll be manning the chat. And if she needs anything here, then I will be her backup, but I'm just here on the sidelines.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. So we're looking, so let's get started here. We'll get started with our land acknowledgement. Oh, we don't have to stand, sorry.
Is that, is Ree just reading it, or is there supposed to be volume, Tanya?
Oh, it should be playing volume. Is it not showing volume?
Not in mine, not on mine.
Not in yours, okay. Sorry, I am used to Google Meet and not Zoom. All right, so I guess I'll read it. Let's just go back here. We acknowledge the land on which we are gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. These indigenous nations, known as the Anishinaabe and Lenape, agree through their ancestral languages to the mutual sharing of the land with obligations and responsibilities to the environment. And today, these responsibilities and obligations extend to all peoples. And that's that. All right, moving forward. So our session today is just kind of being focused on being flexible, making connections, keeping the learning going, and learning from each other is a big aspect of this. So the first subject about being flexible, go slow with your instructions. Things are going to take a lot longer than you are used to. And even if you have students that are familiar with the platforms that you're using, you might still find that it takes them a bit longer because they're using devices that maybe they're not used to at home from when they were at school. It's okay to deviate away from the plan. So you might have had, exceptional lesson plans for the day, but the students might not be able to handle it at that moment. They might need a break, and that's okay. The curriculum coverage is not going to be the same as you are doing this remotely. You're probably going to need to spend quite a bit of time solving the technological issues that the students are going to have because they come to you from with many different devices. And it's okay to take extra DPA time throughout the lessons that you have, because everyone is not used to sitting in front of a computer for as long as you're going to be. So you're going to need to take some extra breaks. Do you have anything to add there, Nicole?
From summer learning program as well, I did find that it takes a lot longer to get through things, and it's a long time for kids to sit. So like you were mentioning, they just need lots of activities and opportunities where you can integrate learning, but still get them up and moving and going as well. And just the idea of being flexible, because at any moment you think, oh, this isn't going so well, that I need to kind of change the pace, and you kind of learn as you go, right?
Right. And so taking the lead from the students is really going to be important as well, and kind of getting a feel for them. Well, to take the lead is really important. So the next aspect is keeping connected, technically and emotionally. How are you going to build an online community? And we really feel that this is going to be kind of the first focus for you this week is to build that online community, and help the kids to feel connected, because they've been disconnected for a few weeks already, and they want to reconnect with their peers. So having opportunities for them to share is really helpful, and you can include these types of ideas with some of those like stand up, sit down type of activities, and that can be really helpful to get them to join and to share ideas. So have everyone stand up to share an idea, or have everyone sit down or move to one side of the screen or the other side. Can just be kind of a way to build that community and get people kind of moving a little bit as well. You might find that students are going to say that their device doesn't have a particular program that you want them to have. So might be using a lot of different types of technologies, tablets, iPads, desktops, different things. So it might be useful for you to find out what types of devices that the students are using. And we have an example on here. Is it sharing? Did it change to the screen? Parent conversation Google form?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome, perfect. As I said, I'm used to Google Meet and not the Zoom, so it takes me a minute here. So this is a form that was created by a virtual teacher. And as you have parent conversations, that might be something to kind of take note of. What type of device the student is using. You would have asked these questions earlier. Do they need to get one from school? Do they have reliable internet at home? Is there an area that they're going to be able to do that work from? And I'm going to share this with us at the end. So if you want to use that Google form, you are welcome to use that later on as well. Also, there is going to be technical... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and like it showed when you were transitioning to it, it'll ask you to make, like it forces you to make a copy of it, so you can go ahead and edit that right away, because when you open it, it will be your own copy.
Awesome, thank you, yes. And that's really important, so we're not mixing up all of our information. And that information will automatically populate to a Google slide after, and if anyone has questions about that, or sorry, a Google Sheet, I can help you with that. So you will find that there will be technological difficulties. And so here is help information for that. So this is the email address. And what we found in the virtual world is if you were to email tech support, so you email this address, and CC the parent or include the parent in that line and ask student support to email the parent when they resolve the issue. So for example, if you have difficulty with a student who doesn't have login information, email this email address and ask them to respond to the parent directly. We're kind of suggesting that for a couple of reasons. The first one is that it lets the parent know that you are helping them. And then it also kind of nicely hands it back over to the parent so that you don't have as much on your plate that you need to address. And there is
actually just had to do that this afternoon.
Awesome. And they're probably going to be inundated with a lot of things right now, but I did find in the virtual world, they were pretty quick at getting back to these different issues, to solving them. All right, so what are you going to actually focus on? So keeping the learning going. Review the previously learned concepts from this year. So we don't feel that this week needs to focus on new learning. Everyone is doing a lot of new learning with all of the technology. So just kind of focused on what you've already done Keep activities as simple as possible. Focus on using the learning tools that are within Seesaw. So for example, using the recording feature, and they can use the arrow to show you their thinking during Seesaw activities. Just kind of using those features on things that they already know. There are a number of sites that are available that have a lot of information on them already. Here's a few. So we know of this one, the LKDSB blog. There's also a Facebook group that someone has a video with. And then this one down here is what for virtual teachers, and Melissa Denta created it, who is fantastic in our board. And so there's a ton of resources in there that will answer a lot of questions that you probably have. And of course, the sessions from this week are going to be posted on the blog as well. So this website. Also put this link in the chat box, so that way you have access to all of this information and all of these links if you have questions. I guess I'll pause here for a second. Does anyone have any questions up to this point? Please feel free, if you do, to write them in the chat box or to turn your camera and microphone on and share. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, so we'll keep going here then. Parent sports. So there are questions about how parents can access Seesaw in Google Classroom. And this is really a question about how they can help their students to get onto the Seesaw or Google. We don't want the parents to have to be accessing these without the student present, but especially for grade 1 and 2, they're going to need to help with that. So there are 2 videos that are going to be posted on the blog to help parents see how to log on to those different places. And we're mostly using Seesaw, I think, right, in grade 1 to direct parents to see how to do that. The big question that everyone has been asking is the daily schedule. What can and should that look like? So everyone is going to start at the school's bell time. And we've kind of done this for a variety of reasons, because it will help to give us a more consistent schedule sorry, I do see that there's a question here. Can parents access the blog? Yes, parents can access that blog. That's accessible to everyone. You would just give them that website code, and then they can see that. And there's a lot of games and things on there for math as well that they might be interested in. So looking at the varying bell times, you're going to want to keep them, you're going to want to keep your time consistent with the bell times for when you start, and roughly when the prep times occur as well. This is going to help the prep teachers to get to where they need to be on the times that they need to be there. So trying to keep that schedule consistent through the week is going to be useful as well. You'll want to include the lunch and recess schedule into your schedule, but you are probably going to want to extend those break times. And I would suggest extending them before the time that they would typically occur. So if you had lunch that typically happened at 11:15, you might want to have it start at 11:45 instead, if that doesn't interfere with prep time coverage, of course. You're going to want to follow your principal's divisions, their directions, and you're going to have asynchronous time throughout the day. So this is a little bit different from the virtual school, because their time ends of synchronous time at 1:50, and your time is going to extend beyond that. So you're going to want to have more time that students can work through the day. Just kind of, you'll maybe be present and be available if they have questions, but allow them to go and do that work and then come back to you if they have questions. Another thing that you'll find that's going to be really important is having that DPA happen throughout the day frequently. So it might be every like 15 minutes that you need to have a movement break or a brain break. And I have resources later on to kind of show you what that could look like. So for the schedule here, so these are some kind of quick examples of what this might look like. So you might, if you typically have literacy in the morning, you might want to continue with that, have your whole group, and then you might have students work independently. And they might either stay and work independently and stay on the meeting, or they might work away from the meet and then come back to it when they are ready, if they need some help. And then have a break time, more literacy time perhaps. That might be time that you start having some scheduled time for small groups if you wanted, or whole group lessons. Or that might just be time that you're there and available for questions if students have questions. An extended kind of lunch time, and then math time again starting with whole group. Let students go do their work and come back to you if they have questions, might be useful for that. And as the time continues on through the day, same idea, start with a whole group and then allow them to come to you later if they have questions. And then here's another example of what that could look like when you have prep time. Now, this is obviously going to look a little bit different as well, where if you normally had a 40 or let's say a 60-minute prep, now it would only be between 40 and 45 minutes because that would be that 75% of the time. So the teacher might still be available through that whole time, but the students are not expected to do the work through that whole time. And you might want to schedule extra breaks in there for yourself as well, where you're all away from the computer for a little bit, because that can be a long time of being in front of the computer. Any questions or comments through here?
Tanya, just a question. So students can work on Google Meet and be on Seesaw at the same time, right? Depending what they're on, they have a new tab up above if they're working on a laptop or a Chromebook, or navigate between apps on an iPad?
Right, they can be in both at the same time. If they are working on Seesaw, they might not be able to see you in the Meet, but they would still be able to hear you talking through the Meet. And so some students really like that because they know that you are there if they have questions. Other students might decide to totally leave the Meet and then come back to you if they have questions at that time. And that might be a conversation with the students and the parents about what's going to support that student best. Some students might find that it's too distracting to have the Meet going on while they're trying to do their Seesaw work because they can hear if you're helping other students during that time. So yeah, they might want to leave and then come back. You'll kind of have to see what your students need at that point. Any other
just a question. You had mentioned students can explain their thinking using an arrow tool.
Yep.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Let me see if I can bring up Seesaw here. Are you still able to see my screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to stop for a second because I'm going to go into my Seesaw, my test kind of Seesaw here. And I can show you what I mean for that. So there's a lot more features in Seesaw that have been updated since we were able to use it in the fall. Or sorry, the spring when we were using it more extensively. Oh, it's just taking it a moment. Sorry, guys.
Would all families have access to those new updates if they may need to update their app?
Right, they might need to update their app. And what we found too in the virtual school is some schools handed out some of the older devices just because that's what they have available. And some of the new ones aren't going to be able to handle those updates. So it's kind of one of those things you'll have to see how it goes as it goes. So I'm going to share my screen here again. And so what a student would do would be in their activity, and this would be the same when you assign an activity or not. I'm just going to go to post student work and then to drawing. So let's say that you wanted your student to explain to you how they added 12 and 5, let's say. You can actually use the recording tool, so this microphone here, and then I'm going to allow that, and it's going to start recording down here. So as I record this, you would be able to hear this as a teacher after, and they can actually use this arrow button here. So when they click on that, it creates an arrow, so they can show you what they did. So if they were to draw you a picture or something, they can use that and show you their thinking as they did do that work, because we're not going to be able to have quite those one-on-one meetings and like you've been used to. So we found in the virtual world, this is a really handy tool that you can use. And then if I hit done and I hit that play, see, I'm just going to kind of, you can see, you can
awesome.
see that arrow, and I can hear that on there. Is that good there? Should I continue?
That's great. I need that update because mine doesn't actually have that arrow tool.
Awesome. So you'll find that it does appear when you hit that record button. So the record and then that arrow, the eraser disappears and the arrow comes down here. So yeah, especially it should automatically be available on a desktop, but you might need to do an update on an iPad. Awesome. Any other questions about scheduling stuff at this point?
Those sample schedules, will everyone here have access to those?
Yep, they will be able to see that with the presentation that I put in the chat box. So I'll put this in the chat box when we're done here.
So we'll put that in at the end.
Yeah, awesome.
And all of this is being recorded as well. So
perfect. Yeah, and you'll see here that we have GoNoodle as well. So well, I'll come to that after, I guess. So building an online community. So finding simple ways to connect with them is going to be important. And you know that, and you have a community within your class already. It's going to be really good to kind of continue with that and have that as our focus this week. Set clear expectations about what you will allow and what you won't allow in your classroom. So for example, muting and unmuting is often a area for difficulty. So when you set up your Google Meet through the calendar, that will give you host controls. So you are going to have the power to mute your students. You probably wish you could have that power at other times, but it's really handy in the virtual world. And so you're going to want to decide, are you going to just mute them, or are you going to ask them to mute themselves? And that's always a really good idea, is to give them that suggestion of that power to do that themselves, and kind of mute them as a last resort for yourself. But know that you'll have those types of controls and that you want them to do that, and that they know that you expect them to do that. Teach your students how to use the different Meet features. So using the mute button and the unmute button. There's a hand raising feature as well that can be kind of handy, because students putting their hand up for a long time can be uncomfortable. So getting them to use that feature and checking on your screen might be handy. It's one of those ones though that isn't available on all devices yet. It depends on if they've updated things. So just know that they're there, but it might not appear on all of them. So determining learning selections. So we know that for the grade 1-2 area, we need to have about 225 minutes from the grades 1 to 8. You might assign different tasks like questions, reading, writing, activities, pre-recorded video demonstrations, or tutorials, and all of that can be done really easily in Seesaw. There's some really fantastic opportunities in there for that. There are a couple different options that the students have or parents, I guess, have for their students. Option 1 is the live teacher support. So that is when the students are expected to meet on the Google Meet throughout the day, that they're going to complete the activities and learning that is assigned for them, and that you are going to be available on the Google Meet throughout the lesson when students may be working on some of their questions. You're still going to be available even if you're not doing live teaching at that moment. It's really important for the students to interact with the teacher and their peers throughout the day. So having various times that they're able to interact is a really good thing. And the cameras aren't required to be on. And it's kind of a really awkward thing when students don't have cameras on, because you feel like you're just kind of talking to yourself. But there's a lot of reasons for that students might not be comfortable with turning their camera on. So we can kind of create an atmosphere of encouraging students to have their cameras on, but try not to expect that too much. And at this option 1, students may be completing the work at their own pace as well. So we know that internet constraints may be difficult for some families, and they might just not be able to get online to do the activities during the day. So they might end up having to do them at different times throughout the day, or even into the evening, as the internet allows them. So for the option 1, the tasks are going to be online activities with a classroom teacher leading the learning, and the curriculum partners will provide instruction, typically with a new Google Meet link that's going to be posted for us within Seesaw. And this is so that your curriculum partners can have those host controls, because it can be really difficult sometimes if a teacher doesn't have those host controls to allow students or to force students to go on to mute, and different things like that. Option 2, learning on demand. So this is when a student completes the work at their own pace. They may have written feedback provided by email, messages, and Seesaw. That's probably where we're going to be, is messages and Seesaw. Assigned tasks will be online activities, which allows the teacher to lead the learning. So the tasks are available, but the student doesn't have to join the meet. And the instruction may be available up to 75% of the scheduled time with the class. So when we kind of look at the comparison here, one thing that does kind of go with both of them is that for us, they're not going to exceed 225 minutes, and they can be assigned a lot of the same types of things. So don't feel that if you have students that have chosen option 2, don't feel that you need to reinvent the wheel. The activities that you assign in Seesaw could work very well for option 2 students, but you just might need to record a little bit of an explanation about the activity so that the students understand what they need to do, because they might be missing your live lesson through the Google Meet link. They might not be participating in that. Any questions up to this point? Oh, Nicole, your microphone's off.
Just we had a little bit go about addressing Google Meet and our prep coverage teachers. So I know we discussed this in different times today actually, but in just setting up a Google Meet and having, I know it really depends on preference, right? So if you want to share your Google Meet for your family, so it's a little bit easier, and then they just have one Google Meet they sign in, and the prep teacher you invite to that Google Meet when you're setting up your Google Calendar. Or else if you're not comfortable with that, then you can have them actually create their own meet that you would put into their Seesaw for the teachers. But to me, it seems a little bit easier just to have our families, especially this week for 4 days, just join one. But that's completely your own preference, I think. Tanya?
Yeah, I would agree. I know in the virtual world, a lot we're still using just one Google Meet link for the whole day. Even the prep coverage teachers were using that one link, and the classroom teachers would put themselves on mute and turn their cameras off. And often you're working at your desk anyway at that time. So they might still listen in and kind of help to mute students if that becomes a problem during the meeting. But that would be totally up to you, and it's not expected that you would use your prep time in that way. So it's kind of what you feel comfortable with, if you want to share that Meet link or if you want to have a brand new one. The students will learn. I would just say make sure that you have an explicit schedule with separate Meet links if you have different links for different curriculum partners at different times. Be very explicit about where they need to be because some parents might have multiple children that are in multiple meets throughout the day, and it can be a little bit difficult to keep track of all of that from that perspective. Any other questions or comments about that?
I was just going to add to that as well. When just the importance of actually sending home a schedule to your families and posting it to your Seesaw so they know when to be on, when they have a break, kind of what to expect. It would be great for parents to have an idea of when that happens. And also, if you are in a situation where you have a couple different Google Meets, if you are familiar with Google Slides or like creating live links within it and downloading it as a PDF, the schedule, and then posting it to your Seesaw, and your parents could actually just click right on that hyperlink too to bring them to the Google that way. But
that can be really helpful. Yeah, and I would suggest pinning it within Seesaw, so that way it's always at the very top when you create that schedule of what that's going to look like. And it might end up being different every day because your curriculum partners, right? You might not have prep at the same time every day, and that's okay. But if you create that as a PDF and you pin it to the top, then the parents always know where to go to look for that for the day, and that can be really helpful for them. Questions? How do I pin to the top? Okay, so let's go and look at Seesaw here. So let's not save that. So let's say I have a note here and I want to do this. What I would do is if I have this, let's say this gibberish here, I want to pin that. When you go down, there's the 3 dots, and then you'll see pin to top. And when I click that, that pins it to the very top of the student's journal. And this goes for all of the students that are in the classroom, and it will stay to the very top. So whatever they post to their journal will get posted beneath this activity. This will always stay in the front. So if you're updating your calendar daily, you're welcome, you could do that. And then I would just pin it every day. So that's those 3 dots at the end of whatever you're pinning. Once you've pinned it, you can choose to unpin it. Or if I go to click on something else that I want to pin, it will ask me if I want to go, do I want to replace it? And you can do that, just replace something. So that's kind of a really neat new feature for Seesaw that's been really handy in the virtual world. All right, are we ready to move on from that? Or do we have other questions?
Just a question about keeping the Meet open all day. So can a teacher keep them, like her or his Meet open all day if a French teacher sends her own Meet?
Right, so in the virtual world, a lot of teachers do leave the Meet open all day, and students are able to kind of chat among each other at the kind of recess and lunch times. So what a lot of teachers do as well is they put up a like a waiting room kind of thing with a timer on it, so students know when they are expected to be back in class. Of course, that leaves questions of, do you want them, the whole supervision questions. We've been told that until there's a problem that we're okay with allowing them to have that. And in the virtual world, I didn't have any problems. I was from September to December, and I didn't have any problems with students doing that. Remember that they want to have that opportunity to meet with each other as well. So I think at this point, it's been fine for us to leave that open all day. And you can kind of be in the background if you want, turn your camera off, turn your microphone off during those break times. And often I would still be kind of in the background, working away on my computer anyway.
May even go a bit smoother during your time that you are on live. If you've had it on, they've had a chance to meet and socialize themselves as well. It may help it go a little bit smoother for you.
Mm-hmm. And it gives them an opportunity to kind of practice that mute on, unmute, because they have incentive, because they want to share with their friends about doing that. So we'll kind of keep going. If you have, so setting up your Google Meet, so you would have done that for today. But if you need more information about that, going into the elementary program, the website, and then going to the memo 12 has that remote learning support about how to set that up using your Google Calendar so that you have host controls for the duration of that. Now, let's talk about when you're teaching using Google Meet. You're going to want to have the grid view on the screen, and Google Meet now has that available within the program. We don't need to download any further extensions for that. So to do that, you would click the three dots that are at the bottom right of the screen. So we can see that this bar here would be at the very bottom of my screen. This pop-up is going to come up, and you would click on change layout. You would change over to the tiled screen. And then depending on how many students you have, you can slide this over to allow for more pictures on your screen, more students available there. And presenting from your device. So when you are presenting, if you are presenting for, let's say you want to do a DPA activity and you want to do a Go Noodle, you're going to want to share from a tab. This is best for videos and for animations. So they're going to be able to hear the audio like you guys couldn't hear earlier for me because I apparently didn't click the right thing earlier. If you want to share a window on your screen, so let's say that you want to do a calendar activity from PowerPoint and its home is on your hard drive, you would want to click on a window, and then it will give you a selection of ones that you already have open to be able to access from there. You're going to want to click on your share screen. So if you wanted to present from a secondary device, so you might want to have your Google Meet up so you can see the students on one screen, and then you want to teach your lesson from a device. So for example, from an iPad. You would click join first. You would join that meet, put your camera off and your microphone off, and then you would click to share the screen, and it would share your entire screen on your iPad, let's say. So you would want to already have open the program that you want to go into. No cameras are required. So again, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but you might want to just promote and encourage students to have them on as opposed to demanding that it be on. Because that just might not be something that all students can do at home. But it makes it a lot nicer when you have students that you can look at rather than just empty screens. You want to be available during those class times. So that's kind of during that asynchronous time where students are working, but you might still be available. You would probably turn your microphone off and your camera off. And you want to let them know that you would be available, and maybe that needs to be a conversation about how they're going to let you know that they need you when they do. If you have your camera off and your microphone off, you would still be able to hear them, but and see them, but you might still want to hear them or have them tell you. DPA. So this is going to be a really great thing for you in grade 1-2 world. You probably have done Noodle in the past. So this is kind of an awesome thing because during class time, you probably haven't been able to do some of these activities with the students because you've had to have masks on and not move around so much. But you can play a Go Noodle video or a Just Dance videos. And Melissa Dent has created a slideshow, a whole bunch of different videos, and we'll go into that. So this document is going to create, this is a forced copy. So when you click on here, it's going to make you have to create your own copy. But she has a ton of different videos in here that you would be able to go to. So there's yoga in here, different Just Dance types of things. There's just all kinds of things that you might want to do with your students during those brain breaks. So when you see that they're kind of getting a little bit busy, it might be a good time to just pull out a brain break. Maybe let them choose some of them too. Maybe you could pull sticks and let them choose, or whoever was really quick to mute or unmute or different things like that. And again, to present those, you're going to want to present from a tab for them to be able to hear the audio from that file as well, from the online picture. Meeting those curriculum expectations. So just kind of give yourself a break this week and let yourself feel comfortable knowing that it's review this week. Go slow, integrate those asynchronous tasks. So give them, have your lesson and then let them work on it asynchronously. So let them turn their cameras off and their microphones off and give them time to come back to you when it's time to maybe move on to the next thing. But they don't have to be in front of the camera and talking with you that entire day. Expect tech issues. It's going to happen. Students are going to be using all kinds of different things all the time. So expect that. And I have a slide about where you can go for help for that. Plan daily so you're not over planning. I know that we have a habit of wanting to get through all of this information through the week, but you might find that you're just not getting through all of it, and that's okay. So don't over plan because some of these tech things are going to come in that's going to take time to try to resolve. Another thing to consider is what would you like your students to do when they're done their work or they're helping others? So do you have like RAS kids at your school that you could ask them to go and spend some time on? Do you have a math program that they can go work on for a little bit when they're done? Is that something that you want them to do? Do you want them to just go get a book? Do you want them to go find 3 different shapes and take a picture of it on Seesaw and send that to you at some point? Like, do you have things that you want them to do when they're done? It's something to consider. So we are going to have sessions at 3 p.m. For the rest of the week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This is my email address and Nicole's email address if you have any questions for us while you're trying to wrestle off all of this information. I think that was it. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so we had another one here in the chat, and can you present? I know this is always a big one, and when I started virtually as well first, can you present and see your students at the same time? Yes.
So that depends, yeah.
But not as many. Go ahead.
I was going to say that depends. If you're using one screen, you can see a few of your students, like usually like 5 to 7 kind of students on the side that are kind of really small when you're presenting. So if it's a possibility, you may want to use a secondary monitor when you are presenting so that you can have everyone up on one screen. I would kind of park them all on one screen and then do my work on another screen as I'm presenting. So that way I can see them and still do the work.
I always find it easier to have 2 devices going. But what you have to make sure of if you have your 2 devices going is to mute one of them for the sound, because you'll get all sorts of screeching. So always make sure you're turning your volume off on what devices.
Right. I see someone wrote that there's an extension called Dual List that you can split your screen. You can most certainly do that. And that one can be really handy if you only have one screen. If you're sharing or you're using a PC and you're using Chrome, it can actually automatically allow you to do that. So I will show that in just a second here. I have to open up various tabs. So let's share again here. So what you would do is have your tab. Can you see just one tab here? Nicole, can you just see that? Yep. Okay, so what you're going to do is you would have your tab and you would have it smaller. And you would grab where the tab, so this kind of portion here where the tab sticks out, and put it over to the corner, and it will automatically pop to half of the screen. If you create another one and I pull this out to another side, I can do that again to the other side, and it will kind of automatically populate both of those to the split screen. So that could be an option.
How did you do that again? Okay.
Yep, so you're gonna have them kind of small. So make it big. I'm going to make it small again. So instead of having the double boxes, I just want one box. Grab where the tab is and bring it to the corner, and it kind of does like a little pulse out, and then you can drag and drop it so that it will be halfway. And that's it, only if you're using Chrome though. So if you are using Internet Explorer or any of the other ones, I'm not familiar with those, so I don't know if it will work for that.
And any ideas or thoughts about how to do guided reading without materials? I know that for your BLS, the ES world, they ended up purchasing Raz Kids, or was it? It was Raz Kids, right?
Yeah, it was Raz Kids.
So suggest I guess how you did it at first.
Yeah, I guess for that person, if you have Raz Kids, you could definitely use that where you are presenting that on your screen to a small group of students and to kind of continue with using that. There are a number of different options within Raz Kids that will allow you to show different types of materials, but anything that you have that you could read with them. So I think it's readworks.org is another website that has free resources. So you could get an article from there.
It's really good too.
It is.
Yeah.
And so that might be a way that you could do that. So I did put the link to that presentation in the chat box. So if anyone is interested in that, you're welcome to click on that, and that will bring you to all of those resources that I had shared. I particularly like the DPA ones. They were really a lifesaver during the day. Are there any other questions or comments? Wow, you guys are pretty quiet. The reading site.
It's a very quiet group.
They are. I think it was
So you just posted that in the chat, Tanya?
Yep, I did. The link to the Google presentation. Let me just double check.
Okay, one new message showing up now. Oh, wait, nope. I don't see it either. I thought maybe that was your message just popping up, but I don't see it in the chat.
You don't see it in there? Okay, let me see if I can put it in again here then.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to want to let me post it. That's really weird. Oh, technology. You're going to say that a lot this week. It doesn't seem to want to let me.
And I guess just more than anything, and just take it slow with the kids and getting them logged in and muted when you'd like them to mute and to unmute and to raise their hand, or all of those things are successes to be celebrated as well. So take it slow and just celebrate your small successes.
Right. Because that will take a large portion of your time, unfortunately, and you can contact that tech support line for help. So don't feel like you are in it alone. They are pretty quick to help out. So we have a question. Are there other SK1 teachers here? And are you keeping the ones on for the extra 45 minutes when the SKs can leave the meet? Anyone here that can speak to that? Don't all try to talk at once. Yeah, so someone has responded that yes, they keep them longer and they do science at that time. Julie had said that. Oh, it says you need access. All right, so let me change those settings. There, is it letting you know?
Yep, I could just do it.
Yes, it's working now. Thank you, Adrian, for checking that. Awesome. Are there any other questions or comments about that? I know that there's a ton of information that we kind of threw at you and a ton more questions that you have. But really, I think you just need to give yourself some grace this week. Don't expect to do all the things all the time that you've heard some of the virtual teachers are doing. They've had weeks and months to figure things out. And this is 4 days. So do what you can and don't stress about what's not working, because you're definitely going to find things that aren't going to work, and that's okay. And know that there are people here to help you. So feel free to reach out to myself or to Nicole. There's lots of people that if you have one problem, probably other people are having a problem as well. And so that helps us to know where we can direct some help for the following days.
And no question's a silly question either. I know I'm figuring things out all the time. Tanya's been teaching it for a month, but there's things she's still figuring out too. So either she's been there before or she's in something, and I'm just figuring it all out all the time too, along with everybody else. So.
Hi, Adrian. Is there something we can help you with? No? Awesome. Nice to see a face though. Thank you. So do you have any questions, I guess, for right now that you would like answered for tomorrow's session to kind of give us direction about what you are really wondering about for tomorrow going forward? Does anyone have questions or comments about any of that? What do you really need to know? Would you like to know more about Seesaw features? Would that be helpful, I guess, is the question. Or any other particular things?
I wonder if even anyone was interested in the whiteboard feature of Google Meet.
Yeah, the
Jamboard.
Did
you use that a lot, Tanya?
I did, but not for the students to use very much.
It's just like a number talk or?
Yeah, so I would use that. I would actually join from my iPad using Jamboard for a number talk, because it was really handy to use with my Apple, with my stylus to be able to write on it. Trying to record things using a mouse is really kind of tricky. So using the whiteboard, that Jamboard feature, I can definitely speak to that tomorrow. Or right now, if you have a few extra minutes and you want to talk about that. You see Sarah, it looks like, mentioned that. Heather says yes about Jamboard. Do you want to do that, have a moment today, or do you want to talk about that tomorrow? We only have a couple minutes left for today.
All right, we got it today.
Today, all right. So to do Jamboard, there's a couple different ways that you can do that to access it. My preferred method is to go in through your Google Drive and to go into where you want to share. And that is because it makes it easier for you to know where it's at, where it's parked at. So I'm kind of there right now, and I'll just kind of share here.
We can also recap tomorrow. I know people are overwhelmed with lots of information. So if you did want to join in tomorrow, and we can kind of start by recapping this whiteboard for others who are just tapped out today, that's completely understandable too. So if you wanted to stay on for a few extra minutes and watch this, and if not, we'll start with that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thanks, Nicole. Because yeah, some people may have had to quarantine for a while already, and they might be ready for some of these things. So we'll kind of do a quick little chat about that. So to use that Jamboard, I just went into a click new, and then you would go down to Google Jamboard. And this has some new features, even from not that long ago. So what's nice about this is you can use the pen feature and you can draw on it, which is really handy for a lot of different subjects, particularly math, I found was really handy. You can import different kinds of pictures in here, or you could put a text box in here. So really what we found was that this was kind of replaced this smartboard in the classroom. So smartboard, you would be able to move things around on the screen, and you could type directly on it or write directly on it. And this is really handy for that here. Another of my favorite features that I love is this feature right here. It's a pointer. So if you're trying to refer to something and you want the kids to see particularly where you're referring to on the screen, you can use this, and it's a pointer. It just kind of disappears after, and it helps to draw their attention when you need to go. You can set a background. So if you are working on a writing activity, you could set the background. And this is really small. So you could increase that so that it's a little bit bigger when you want to, if you're doing some writing on here. One drawback of Jamboard is that you only get 20 pages. To add a page, you would click up here, and it will bring you to a brand new page. That's a brand totally new page. There are the different features in the background, and you can add a picture to the background. And we found that was really kind of cool. We talked about that today for a coding kind of thing. So you could put a coding background with the different boxes, and then have students talk to you about where to move with arrows where you might want to go in here. I would use this as my day plan. So rather than using Google Slides, I would use this as a day. And that way it was easy to manipulate things through the screen, and to put live links in here. So I could just click that if I wanted to go to a different lesson or a different video or something like that. So it's kind of the really quick version, because I know that we are out of time, and you guys are probably just tapped out for the day.
It's just nice having an option to do your number talks on, and not just that, Jamboard offers a whole wealth of opportunities, but if you're just using it simply alone as a board to do your number talks, it's really valuable, and you can open it up right from your Google Meet too, which is handy.
Right. I do like having it, just to kind of add for that, housed under a particular folder in Google Drive, because if you open it from Jamboard, it goes into like this big swimming pool of all the Jamboard stuff, and it can get a little bit tricky to locate later. But it is an awesome feature for a lot of different things. Awesome.
Well,
so I
thank you
think
very much for lending all of your expertise, Tanya. So if any of you have any questions over tomorrow, or just feel free to reach out. We are both here to help you, and if I'm working through things up as well, but I know we are both here to help. So
and if we don't know an answer, we know other people we can go to get answers. So that would be really helpful, and we can kind of bring that to everyone. If one person has a problem, probably other people are experiencing the same thing. So that lets us know where to direct. Awesome. So thank you so much. I'll let you go, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. If you have any questions, we are happy to talk about those.
We can even share the day, things that worked, things that you would suggest to others, or things you want some tips on what you can improve on too. So that would, all that sharing is really great.